Welcome to GLS Carriers Presents Team Talk. I'm Ken Cox, and my knees hurt. We did a lot of flooring this last weekend. Today we've got Francis Ham, Kenny Kuntz.
I'm stuck on the knees hurt. Howdy.
Have you ever done flooring?
I probably wouldn't say my knees hurt if I did.
I had knee pads on. I'm telling you, I am not 20 any longer. Behind the scenes, we have Danny.
My knees hurt too.
This week's birthdays, we've got Jeremy, Jay, and Joe. We wanted to give a shout out and say happy birthday to you guys.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Was that planned? That they were all J names?
It just happened to work out that way.
All right.
And yeah, I guess this week we're going to talk about my journey as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, if you guys haven't tuned in and you missed the two shows that we had previously, we learned a little bit about Kenny, learned a little bit about Francis in last week's show. Now we're going to learn a little bit more about Ken.
I guess it's my turn.
Yep.
I was born with a beard. So,
Just like my mother.
just like my mother. Mom, I'm sorry. I will beat Danny up later. So I had just spent a decade in the United States Air Force. I was doing security forces. Thought, well, I halfway to retirement, I should make the wrong decision and get out. So I did, and I like to travel. I wanted to see the world. Up to this point, I've seen quite a bit of the world, and I wanted to see United States. I wanted to drive, and I like to drive. So I get out, I go through school, get my CDL, and started with a company. As most of you know, when you're brand new into the game, not a lot of places will hire you. The company I worked for was not a good experience. There was many a times where I didn't have the mentorship. I didn't have somebody there guiding me. At least I felt that way. I'm on the side of the road. I'm broke down. I don't know what to do. I'm literally crying, feeling sorry for myself. And that's when, about the time I pulled myself up from bootstraps, went home, decided that maybe trucking wasn't for me because it is not an easy career. Decided to go back towards the law enforcement side of things. And then about 6 weeks later, I get a call from a gentleman in Jackson. And he says, hey, you went through this schooling. I need somebody up in North Dakota because he was putting together water trucks for the oil field. And I said, well, I mean, we can give it a shot, I guess. I was making
That was an experience, I bet.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you. I spent 3 months on the road doing OTR with this company, and then
What's OTR for dumb people like me?
I don't think you're dumb. OTR's over the road, and so I was all over the place. Pennsylvania was one of my first places to go through, and I don't think I've been back since. Beautiful country. The roads in a semi. I never acquired those skills.
I'm waiting for the horse and buggy to get out of your way so you can get down the road.
Right. So anyway, spent a few years up in North Dakota doing oil field stuff, moving water, flowback, a bunch of that stuff, and met Mike and Tiff, and we hit it off right away. So we put a bunch of trucks together, ran a bunch of trucks up there, and then as the oil field stuff was coming down, we thought, well, okay, what else do we need? What else can we do? Sold off all the equipment. I think we timed that just right. We made a killing doing that, and then we were able to venture out and do some other things. And at that point, my wife, Sarah, she was just getting out of the Air Force, and so we were thinking about she was doing like OSHA environmental bio. She was doing OSHA, industrial hygienist stuff.
Sure.
And was getting the same job, but as a civilian at Hill Air Force Base in Utah. So we were going to go start doing that. And I worked with a couple different companies while I was up in North Dakota. Absolutely great. I'm not going to throw their names out there because right now they're kind of a competitor, and we kind of work with them too. But Kurt, awesome guy to work with. I learned a lot from him. Was a great mentor. At that point, it was good to have. And so sold all that stuff, came back home. Mike decided that he wanted to get a truck and start going from California to Alaska. So we did that for a few years. We team drove and did that. And
That's an experience in itself, ain't it? Team driving?
team driving it is. And I thought Mike and I at first were going to not make it out. But we soon learned that we could work together, and we work very well together. And we do a lot of things right now together, and we work really well.
I think you probably got a lot of good experience in the road conditions and whatnot in North Dakota that you took with you to go to Alaska.
Oh, absolutely. I think North Dakota roads were worse. You go through the Alcan, and there's stretches where it's not paved. The roads are nice enough, and I mean lots of ice, lots of snow. So when we were talking about your experiences and being stuck in Lyman, Colorado, we had a similar. I don't want to say similar. We did learn a hard lesson on one of our trips. So we started at the beginning of summer, right? So we go all through summer, and we get going, and we have our fuel stops along the route. Otter Falls was our next fuel stop. It is winter. We are trucking along. We're doing fine. I'm driving. Mike's in the back sleeping. I'm about what I think is about 10 miles away from Otter Falls. Truck starts doing something weird. Starts hiccuping. I'm like, what is going on? Gunk, gunk. Run out of fuel. I was like, oh no.
And you were driving?
I was driving.
This is your safety director.
This is why he's a good safety director.
I learned through experiences. We had made that trip, 1,000, I don't want to say 1,000 times, but we had made that trip a lot, and that was our next stop, and we usually about a quarter tank of fuel when we get there. Couldn't for the life of me figure out what happened. So we're on the side of the road, middle of the Yukon. It is -12, -15, and then you got wind chill on top of that. Truck's not running, we have no heat. And I'm sitting there going, what do I do? It's the middle of the night, like it's midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning.
How long did it take Mike to wake up in that weather?
37 seconds. He wakes up, he sees this puff, of cold, freezing breath coming out of his mouth, and he goes, Ken? Yeah. Are we stopped? Yep. Did you run out of fuel? Sure enough. Where are we at? Almost to Otter Falls. Okay. So he gets up, and he's got this big sleeping bag on, comes up front, and I go, I think we're about 10 miles away. And I'm like, I'm going to freeze. We have to do something, right? Like, we can't just sit there. It's the middle of the Yukon. It's not like a major highway with people going down the road. So I'm getting amped up. Okay, I need to throw more clothes on. I need to bring some water. I need to bring something. I need to stay warm, and I'm going to have to hoof it 10 miles to go get us some fuel. Okay, I'm getting ready, and I look in the mirror, and I see this car. I see these tiny little headlights. Yes. They get close, and I stop, and I'm like this, and there they go. No. So I was just about getting ready to walk, head down the road, see another pair of headlights, which is weird to me because, like I said, it's 1 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
They stop. Finally, I'm like, hey, I ran out of fuel. Otter Falls is just up the road. Can I get a ride with you? And he says, yeah, not a problem. I'm getting ready to go hunting, and not big. I hadn't planned on going clear to Otter Falls, but I'll give you a ride. I'm like, awesome. So he's driving down the road, and he's not looking at the road at all, and he's looking around, and I mean, he's all over the road. I'm like, I'm not gonna live. And all this time, Mike's sitting in the cab of the truck. It's a big old sleeping bag and clothes on, and he's sitting there and he's shivering. And there was a couple of times where he contemplated getting out, starting a fire, and because we had a bunch of supplies with us as well. whatever Canada would let us, have. That's what we had with us. So, anyway, I get up there. I figured I could just buy some jerry cans. When I get up there, they had these really nice 2.5 gallon jerry cans, and they had 2 of them. Like, oh, good, I'll have 5 gallons of fuel. We were running a reefer, and the reefer had fuel in it. We couldn't get the reefer fuel out of the tank there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, 5 gallons isn't going to get us far. This is going to stink. When we got there, there was another truck there that was from the same company we were working with. So I sat there and I waited about 15, 20 minutes, mustered up the courage, knocked on their door and said, hey, I'll work with you guys. Are you guys heading that way at all? I don't want to walk, which happened to be 20 miles. It was not 10, it was 20. Mm-hmm. So anyway, they gave me a ride back there. We get the truck started up. We had to prime it. We had to do all of that fun stuff. And we had just coasted into the tank, into the fuel island, filled the tanks up. They turned around and came back. And so, we did the right thing. We fed them, breakfast, gave them some money for fuel, and
good neighbor stuff.
Good neighbor stuff.
Yep.
I was very, very thankful. I mean, I may not be here if it wasn't for them, because I would have walked back, and it would have been
miserable.
Yeah. I would have been that story, right? What we learned is when you get into Tok, Alaska, right before you get there, there is a weigh station. We pull onto the scale, and we weighed out at 92,000 pounds. Gross. We left, and we were just under 80,000 pounds. So by the time we hit the border, just before Montana's border to Canada to Otter Falls, we had accumulated just over 10,000 pounds of ice and snow.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
That was a hard lesson to learn. I'd like to say I haven't ran out of fuel since then, but that would be a lie.
So was that your worst day and your best day altogether?
I didn't die. Yes. It was and it wasn't. There was a lot of cool experiences along the Alcan. I got to say, if you've never driven that, that should be a bucket list item. I've been all over Europe. I've been all over other places. And that drive from Montana, and if you go up through like Glacier National Park and up through Banff and that area, and you hit the Alcan and you go across, is probably one of the most beautiful scenic routes I've ever seen. And I've been all over the United States. I've been, like I said, so put that on your bucket list.
Just don't forget fuel.
Just don't forget fuel. Yeah. Don't do it in the middle of the winter.
That's it.
And so, Northern Lights, I could sit here for another 3 or 4 hours just talking about that experience alone. That was definitely an experience.
Sure.
Well, and I don't want to interrupt. I just have I just had a thought about. So I think last week, when Francis was telling us his story, a lot of what he talked about was the relationships that you built as a driver. Mm-hmm. And your story, like one of your best friends in the world is Mike. Mm-hmm. And
at this point, I consider him family.
Yeah,
he's my brother.
Yeah, that relationship. How much of that would you attribute to you driving?
Quite a bit of it. We met through trucking, and then
Mm-hmm.
We do everything together, So right after that, the company we were hauling for, their customer closed all those stores in Alaska. And so we were like, well, what do we do now? It was paying great. Came back at that time we were living in Alaska. We had moved from Utah to Alaska. Mike and Tiff were living down here in Twin Falls. And his neighbor used to drive for GLS carriers. And since then he's moved on and said, hey, you need to try out GLS carriers. Their rates are awesome. The people are great. You need to do that. So Mike grabs that truck and he starts hauling and gives me a call and says, hey, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm just sitting here. I was thinking about becoming law enforcement up there in Alaska. I've gone through the tests. I was pretty much really, getting ready to go. I pulled the trigger on that, and he says, hey, buy a truck and come run for GLS carriers. I said, no. 10 minutes later, I was like, all right. And came down here, went to Salt Lake, bought me a truck, and leased on with GLS Carriers, and that was almost 5 years ago. So at that point, we were on our own authority. At that point, we were on our own authority, and we were running with you guys, making pretty good money. And Mike decided that 2 years ago, decided that it was time to hang up his hat and work on these other ventures that we've been doing. And so we call it semi-retired, because he's not only semi-retired, but he's retired and doing other things. And from there, I went. We sold off, at the time it was DoD Enterprise. We sold off DoD Enterprise, and then we jumped into under your authority. And then under your authority, I had a couple tickets and wasn't able to continue that. And so I went back onto my own authority, which was costing me an arm and a leg, because if you get going down the road, you get some heavy tickets, you get some overweight fines and whatnot, your insurance rates just go through the roof, and that's what I was paying. Was able to become a company driver. I was doing Giltner Ag at that time, which is part of GLS Carriers.
Yep.
We run a bunch of hay down into Amagrosa Valley and whatnot. Which we don't do anymore.
No, not anymore.
And then this position opened up, and I've known Nikki for a few years now. I was able to meet you guys, and thought, well, this would be a neat job. And so here I am.
Yeah, you bet. Definitely a pleasure having you on the team, no doubt about that.
Oh, thank you.
When you first started out, you said something, and first of all, I want to thank you for your service.
Sure.
Definitely. I want to thank all of our veterans. I know we've got some veterans that are running for us as well. And I know when you look at our country, I love our country, and we wouldn't be the country that we have if it wasn't for our veterans and what we've done over the years. So many, many thanks to that. So I just wanted to touch base on that when you said that.
Thanks for being an American worth serving for.
Thank you.
So was this punishment for all your misdeeds?
I would, some days it feels like that. Some days I do beat my head against the wall. We all do the not so bright things out there, but it's just like any job. It has its ups and downs, and I truly enjoy doing what I'm doing. I get to interact with everybody. I get to talk with everybody. I learn so much from you guys. I learn so much from the drivers. I learned so much from Greg all the way down, and it feels like there's always something new. Like we talked about last week, this industry is always evolving, and I get to evolve with it. And I just, yeah.
You really took the bull by the horns, and put yourself in it. We were talking about how GLS Carriers has been there backing me through my time knowing them. You were in a situation as well, and GLS brought you on as well.
Absolutely, and I want to add a little bit to that. Part of it was I make mistakes. We all do. And I had a bad experience in Los Angeles. It was just not a good time for me, and I made a lot of dumb choices at that time. I basically just drove straight home. I had a temper tantrum, if you will. A couple days of realizing that I made the wrong choices. I felt super bad. All right. So Monday morning, I get up, I come into the office, and I apologize to everybody, because I put you guys in a really bad spot, put you guys in a bad spot with the customers. It was good for nobody. Francis sits me down, and that's when I see this board, and it shows all of kind of our how do I explain that?
All of our KPIs and stuff.
Yep.
On it? Yeah.
It shows our KPIs, and it shows me at the bottom 0. I was like, ouch. I don't think I'm the best performer, but I'm definitely not the worst performer. So Francis sits me down and he says, what happened? And I remember distinctly, I'm just sitting there just ashamed. And I apologize. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what I was thinking. You know, I'd almost put my truck in. I had 100 excuses, right? Almost put my truck into a ditch. Get to the shipper. I didn't have the proper PPE. You know, and I just one thing after another, and I had some other things going on, and I just was like, Francis, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I don't know what was going on. And then I remember him going, hey, bud, we all make mistakes. I appreciate you coming in here. I appreciate you owning up to what you've done. You pretty much were done. We pretty much were going to just bring you in, say, hey, we're going to cut ties. Appreciate what you've done for us. But you come in here, you had integrity, you were honest with us. I can see that you truly are, apologetic and kept me on, which I was super, super thankful for. And now here I am. So I think maybe this might be a punishment. this might be Francis getting back at me. But that's the kind of caliber of people that we work with here and our team, and same with you guys out there. You're going to make mistakes. It happens. It's trucking. How you deal with those mistakes and how you go about that speaks to your character, and you bring that good character, you keep that good character. 9 times out of 10 we can work with you and we can work through it, and we will find the next step. I don't have tolerance for shady characters, right? If you're somebody that's not up to par with what we're trying to do here, it's not really a good place for you to be. And we'll learn that quick. Those of you that are here, you guys have character. You guys have, the what's the word I'm looking for?
Some integrity.
The integrity, right? Yep. Of being here, and that helps us move along. Like, we succeed when you succeed. Yeah. Right. And that's what that's what GLS Carriers does.
And I think that's again where it comes back to drivers for drivers.
Mm-hmm.
We've all been in the industry for a long time. We've drove. We kind of understand some of the challenges. We've all had opportunities and challenges in our career. Some of them we figured out on ourselves how to get it taken care of. Other ones we reached out and we had mentors and things of that nature helped us, get through it. And I think that's what we can help provide back to the people that join our team is a mentorship to try to help them however we can. They're not in it alone, that's for sure. A lot of times the driver out on the road, they'll think, it's all me, and I'm by myself, and what do I do?
It gets lonely out there.
Yeah, and we have a support staff for you. That's who we are. We try to do everything that we do is in the best interest of our drivers and our operation, And I think when they think about that and they really realize that, hey, we're back here, we're supporting you, and we're doing everything that we can for you, and utilize us. That's what that's what we're here for. We're here to help you be successful.
Absolutely.
One thing a driver has a lot of is time. When we're talking communication and stuff. A bad day for a driver and a bad day for a dispatcher, can collide really quick, and a dispatcher may say something that he or she regrets immediately. The problem with that is the driver just has all day to think about it, Hopefully here at GLS, that dispatcher's calling and apologizing, and vice versa. Drivers have bad days, get held up at the shipper. They go to leave, they got a flat tire, Just seems like, can we just start this day over, And dispatch is calling, well, what's your ETA, and he snaps back, We're all a team, Call in, apologize, Let's get rid of the negative and move on. It's we all understand that stuff happens, and we're not going to hold any resentment for it. at all. So
Sometimes drivers run out of fuel when it's 15 below zero, and they're trying to explain to their team driver how that happens.
there might have been a little resentment there.
A little bit, a little bit. We laugh about it now, obviously.
You know, I was just thinking, like, if I was Mike and if it was anybody other than Ken, it kind of tells you why people keep Ken around. Because he put Mike in a pretty bad situation, and yet Mike is stuck around because there's something about Ken. All the stories we've heard over the last couple of episodes is just really emphasized again to me, like, why GLS Carriers acts more like a family when you get in an argument with your family members or you run out of gas. You're stuck with each other, you know, and I love that about this company.
Yeah, I think GLS sees the good in everybody, you know, and they don't want nothing but success for everybody. You know, they've seen something in you, and whether it be punishment or not, you know, I think you enjoy doing safety work.
I really do. Some days it's a headache, but most of the time it's like I said earlier, I'm learning. You know, it's something that I feel is doing good, right? It's something I can stand behind.
Yeah, it's a career, you know, if you think about it, that's a pretty good career to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely it is.
GLS is backing everyone on their team, whether it's drivers, whether it's management, you know, whether it's safety.
Yeah.
But they're here to back you too, you know, as a driver. And we hope that these last few weeks have shown that this company goes the extra mile for their team, and they'll go the extra mile for you too.
Absolutely.
Francis, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I need to throw out a safety topic. You know, every week I try to do that.
You're not doing the fuel gauge thing, right?
It'd probably be a good one. No, I think I want to talk a little bit about windshields. You know, everybody running down the road, there's always rocks flying and whatnot. And remember the old rule of thumb, you know, if you catch a rock and it cracks your windshield, make sure you get that addressed, because that is a violation. Now, if you get a little bullseye or something, you know, I used to always put a quarter, you know, against it. If it was bigger than the quarter, then it needs to be replaced. And if not, well, then I could run it for a little bit, but I want to get it taken care of as well. The other thing that I used to run into, and I remember this because when I grew up on the farm, my dad was not going to put any extra money into a windshield. If it was still there, it was running, you know. And they'd get so pitted up sometimes you'd go into the sun and you couldn't see anything, you know. If your windshield or mirror or anything like that is cracked or is just not serviceable anymore, it's just not good, replace it, because that's your vision. You know, you need to be able to see where you're going and what's going on. So that would be my safety topic for the week.
That's a good one,
I like it.
especially at nighttime. Headlights coming at you, that is the worst. May not have any cracks, but the thing's been around for 2 years. I don't know how you got that lucky, but
Yeah.
looking through that snow on your glass is miserable.
That's right.
Kenny, you have anything else?
Nope. I just, I hope these last few weeks, you know, brings on some more drivers, you know, and I hope that through these that they've learned that GLS is here for them, you know, and we're here to help in any aspect, whether you got your own company, you want to own your own company, or even company drivers, you know. We offer a lot for company drivers. You know, we do bring on company guys. We talk a lot with rates and stuff, and as a company driver, they really don't matter to them. They're getting paid by the mile, you know. But what does matter to us is all of our drivers in any aspect, the representation of GLS carriers out there, you know, that goes a long way.
You bet. And the other thing I kind of like to add to that, Kenny, owner-operators, dedicated company drivers, and you don't have to live here in Twin Falls.
Nope.
You can live anywhere, in the country where you'd like to live and be able to run for us, and we will find freight that'll get you and get you back home.
Yep.
Danny, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No. I was trying to think of something clever, but that's a stretch for me.
Guys, gals, we'd like to know about you as well. So send me us a story. Let me know how you got your start. Safety@glscarriers.com. And as we end this episode, we want to thank you for being safe and making the right decisions, making sure that you have fuel in your tanks.
That's a good one.
Remember, you are our eyes and ears on the road. If you see something, say something. We all succeed when you complete your trip safely and are home with your loved ones.
Yeah. Thanks.
See ya.